70 boards and commissions that you've slated for
soon. Yeah, you'll see them soon. I had mentioned in my opening comments, I talked about it in our press conference yesterday, Florida, for whatever reason, has created over the years all these boards and commissions, and it's like I got to appoint people to all these things, and you got thousands of this stuff, and it's like, okay, do we really need a board for some of this stuff? We have abolished some boards already. We did that as part of our occupational licensing overhaul in 2019. It was barriers to entry for people. We wanted them to be like, you shouldn't have to get a special license if you want to be a hair braider. You can either braid hair or you can't, right? And so it's like, let people do it. Let people apply their trade. So we got rid, it was just things like that were really antiquated. So we did. Now there's also other things that are in law that just haven't been used. There's other things that are just ineffective. There's things that are unnecessary. I mean, there are certain professions that may have some needed regulations, but that could be done through our existing agencies. You don't need a separate board to do all that. There are other boards that have already served their purpose. Maybe they were tasked with producing something. They've done that, and they should be sunsetted. It's not, Ronald Reagan said the closest thing to eternal life on earth is a government bureau. And not in Florida, though. We don't want that. So we want to retire these things once they've done. So we'll be doing that. I know we've been discussing some of the stuff with the legislature. I think we'll be able to get on the same page on pretty much all of it, and then that will be likely drop in a bill probably by the end of the week, I think, is when all these bills have to drop. So that's going to happen imminently. And look, I can tell you, I've reviewed it. Anything that you would think is vital will be done by existing executive agencies. It's not like if there's something that's important we're not going to do, but we think it may be a redundancy. There's other things that clearly aren't adding value at all. There's other things that have already run its course. So, but I know that, they'll do 70. The media will try to find one or two, and they will try to make you think it's so bad and everything like that. Well, you see what they're doing with the DOGE stuff and how they're trying to treat all that. It's interesting. They say DOGE is going in, people are getting laid off, these employees, and then the media is very sympathetic to them, which I would be fine with, but they were not sympathetic, the legacy media, when people were losing their jobs in other states because they didn't want to take a COVID shot. They were not sympathetic to the members of the military that got kicked out because of that ridiculous mandate. They're not sympathetic to people who were working on the Keystone Pipeline when Biden mothballed that. You don't hear those sob stories. So, this is all just part of a narrative. At the end of the day, what they're trying to do is they want to defend having this fourth branch of government, this bureaucracy, and they want it to be that they don't think it should matter who gets elected. The bureaucracy should just do whatever the hell it wants. That wasn't how our Constitution was designed. Our Constitution was designed to have a legislative branch who you elect those folks to the House and now to the Senate after 17th Amendment. We have a judicial branch, which is the weakest of the three, but it serves a limited but important role. And then the executive power is lodged in the president. So these agencies report to the president, and if you have bureaucrats that are not willing to carry out the president's policies, the president has every right to show them the door. And especially in the military, he has every right to show them the door. That's how our system was designed. We've gotten away from that because I think if you think it, like if you're on the left, it's like heads they win, tails we lose. If they win the White House, then they can have policy implemented. But if they lose the White House, they have this permanent bureaucracy that continues to implement those same policies that the voters rejected or tries to sabotage the duly elected, usually Republican president. We saw this during Trump 45 really, really aggressively. And then you'll hear, so the president removed the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They removed some other senior military leaders, I think the chief of naval operations, some others. And you hear like bedwetting in D.C. media, oh my gosh, he's doing all this. First of all, Obama removed hundreds of generals and admirals when he was there. But they have this idea that, the president is trying to remove institutional resistance to his policies amongst the military. The military officers have no right to indulge in institutional resistance. They are pledged to support and defend the Constitution, so obviously the directives have to be lawful, but if they disagree with a policy, they have no right to try to sabotage that policy. And if they're not able to carry out those policies, then they should just find another line of work. That's the way the system works. If you believe that unelected military officers should provide institutional resistance to the duly elected president just from carrying out his job, then you would not be somebody that the founding fathers would have appreciated, because they were very concerned about military being superior to civil authority. They wanted the military always to answer to civil authority. And when president has policies, some of his policies are going to conflict with what the DC foreign policy blob wants. And I think there's a mindset up there that you can't do that. And then if someone tries to do that, even if they were duly elected, that you somehow, as an unelected member of either the military or some of these other agencies, have a right to try to kneecap it. That's not the way it works. And so when you see them going in and making personnel changes, one, constitutionally valid 100%, also removing some of these other folks in some of these other agencies that's now working its way through the courts, ultimately those are going to be found to be valid uses of Article 2 power as well. I mean, we can't have a situation where you have agencies that are able to just be free agents. That means your liberty is not protected. We elect one president to oversee all that. That's who these agencies need to be accounted to.